Hi, Judymay here. So what we're going to talk about today is the fact that you're probably very sensitive and you probably get hurt very easily. These are the kinds of people who come to me for success coaching. And the challenge that we often have when we are the more sensitive, easily hurt, maybe we even see ourselves as fragile types, is that very often it feels as if the stuff that's to do with success, the stuff that's to do with getting really big in the world, is somehow denied to us. That it's just those big, loud, pushy people who are being encouraged to go out and make the millions or be famous or, whatever it is, just kind of gain territory in the world. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to suggest that particularly with the way that the world is going now, the fact that, we have access to things like instant communication, digital communication, the fact that we can get more strategic, that it's not all about who's shouting the loudest, although sometimes it seems like it is. What we can do is we can start to get that territory for ourselves, enlarge our lives. The first part though is to be able to identify, well, where did this come from? Why do I feel so terrible every time I have to make a sales call? Why do I feel so broken and destroyed every time I get a bit of feedback from somebody? Why do I suddenly just need a whole 2 days where I don't see anybody so I can recover from an ordinary day? And it's very important that we do start to realize what happened to us as children. Part of it is our genetic makeup, but also part of it is about how we were treated. Maybe it wasn't mirrored back to us how valuable we were. Maybe anytime we asked for something, we were taught that it wasn't okay for us to so-called be difficult. And so we made ourselves as small and as needless and as wantless as possible. And that worked when we were kids. But now suddenly when we have to get on the phone and make that sales call and say, hey, listen, I'd like you to buy this, or I think this is a good idea, or I'd like a meeting. It's a lot more difficult for those of us who never went through the stages of saying things like, hey, I want to watch this TV show. Hey, I want to go to this football match. I want to, whatever it was. So it is different for people who are more sensitive. We do need different strategies for becoming sort of big and awesome in the world. So the first thing we need to do is we need to identify, how did this happen? What tendencies do we have behaviorally based on this? And I highly recommend the work of Pete Walker, particularly his book Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. And that PTSD obviously stands for stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. And you might sort of think, well, I didn't have a big, nasty incident happen to me. Well, the reason it's called complex PTSD is because we can't identify one single place that it came from. It came from just numerous different things happening over the years. It came perhaps from a sort of a narcissistic setup or a particular way that the family dynamic was back then. So once we've identified what exactly it is going on with us, then the next thing we have to do is to start to set up our day and our environment in a way that first of all protects us. So we're building a wall of protection around us, and then also strengthens us. We've got to do what I call lean and learn. We've got to make sure that we can get to feel good so that we can recover and work things out, but at the same time, we also have to learn how to strengthen ourselves, how to be able to go out there and do things. So a simple example of that might be that if you are in a situation, maybe you work for yourself, and you have all these phone calls coming in. And you might say to yourself, you know what, I'm just becoming allergic to these phone calls. There's too many of them. I don't know what to say. I can't handle any of it. So the first thing we got to do is keep you safe from that. So perhaps we have it that you only check your phone for 2 hours in a day. So at least you know that for the other 6 or 10 hours or whatever that you're working, that you can kind of relax and breathe and plan and strategize. The next thing we've got to do is we've got to get you better at making those sales calls. So then it's all about, working out what is it you need to do. Do you need to have a better script? Do you need to have a better idea of what your product is? Do you need to have more faith in your product? Maybe have a different or better or, a new way of thinking about your product? So that's then how we start to strengthen, how we start to become better at it. Let's go back to some basics here. I found when I was in my 20s, I had this very unusual situation where I was very well known as a playwright and theatre director. I had my own company from a very, very young age, and we had a lot of kind of fame, notoriety, a lot of really amazing things written about us. I got to be on television in Ireland, where I'm from, like all the time, like the big cultural serious shows. Got to speak on the Abbey stage, which was amazing. Got to do all of those things, but was still feeling sort of very fragile. So I'd go home and I'd feel like a fake, and I'd feel sort of very, very shaky. The biggest change that I made that enabled me to start to heal, to start to learn, to start to feel any kind of sense of agency, any idea that I could be in charge of my life and that I could make good things happen. This happened when I cut out sugar. I just stopped eating sugared goods and processed foods. And I was a vegetarian from quite a young age, and so I was eating a lot of pasta and kind of filling up on those things that were available back in Ireland in the 1980s. But when I cut those things out, when I started to just eat more live foods, the change was just incredible. My whole system could calm down enough. I wasn't kind of buzzing, I wasn't emotionally dysregulated. I didn't sort of feel quite so sensitive all the time for no reason whatsoever. And so even something as simple as changing the way that you eat or changing the way that you sleep. A great many of you know me from my book, Sleeping Your Way to Success. It's all about how to use the unconscious mind and how to get an amazing night's sleep. This is so, so important when we're doing the work of changing who we are, changing the in to change the out. And something as simple as setting an alarm that tells you when to start with your bedtime routine, when to close down the computer, run that bubble bath, or do that meditation, or listen to that music, or, go play with the kids, or walk the dog, whatever part of your routine is. Something as simple as setting that alarm so that you get to have that gentle wind down routine and have an incredible night's sleep. These are the things that are often overlooked when it comes to building the bigger success. But you know what? They're the building blocks. So you can get excited today knowing that those tiny, simple changes that you're making in the way that you sleep, the way that you eat, maybe something like this, you've got a friend and they're very well-meaning, but they just feel so oppressive to you. They feel so bossy that they always get to do what they want to do. You always go to the restaurant they want to eat at. You always get to, you hear more about their opinion and yours isn't listened to. So maybe that person you need to see less, or maybe cut them out of your life altogether. So those tiny little changes that you make are the things that are going to both protect you and then start to strengthen you, start to let you see that there are new ways of being, new ways of living. And life then just becomes extraordinary. It becomes easeful, it becomes just joyous, creative, and you don't spend quite so long in that survival mode, that, crying yourself to sleep, getting really angry, feeling really resentful, all those things that, oh, trust me, I know that so well. I used to live there, and now I visit there very occasionally, and mostly live in this awesome place, and that's what I want for you as well. So talk to you again very, very soon. Remember, just have a little look around and ask yourself, well, what can I change? How can I protect myself, and how can I strengthen myself? Talk to you very soon. Until then, stay curious, stay loving, and stay in the game.